Alright guys, we're back today and I'm going to do another video similar to the one that is already on my channel with the painting the inlay on your firearm. The last one we did was the Shield M&P 9mm Smith & Wesson, and we did the slide on that with the inlay, and the difference between what we're going to do today on this lower receiver on the AR and the Shield slide is that that is smooth steel on the Smith & Wesson, and it's not anodized like this here. This is anybody who's had a lower, who's got an AR, can feel this, and it's a little more anodized. It's not smooth steel. There's a little bit of a texture there to it, so it makes the inlay process a little bit different on this, but it's not going to be a ton different. So we'll go through it a little bit quicker than we did on the Smith & Wesson. So what we have is the exact same thing we had last time. We've got our gun oil, we've got our Testors paint thinner. Today we're going to be painting flat red Testors as well, and we're going to do red because this is the Ruger AR-556 lower, and so it's sort of a Ruger color, the red. We've got our syringe with the paint thinner, we've got our cotton gun patches, and the only other thing you need is paintbrush. Obviously you'll have your hair dryer, and the difference here as far as what you'll use to rub the surface is on this type of material, on this type of texture on this lower, and most lowers will have, that'll be the texture here. You're going to want to use an old cotton t-shirt. The main reason being there's very little lint, and that makes a huge difference. You know, again, on the smooth steel, you don't have to worry about the lint so much. You can use a paper towel. That's not going to work here. You've got to use the cotton gun patches and a old cotton t-shirt. Okay, so with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. You can go ahead and grab a cotton gun patch, and we're going to do the same thing we did last time. We're just going to fold it up a little bit, put a little bit of paint thinner on there, and get any residue off of our area that would be on there. Oil, gunpowder, what have you. So I'm going to take my t-shirt and just wipe that back off. That way we don't get any lint on there. And I'll hold this up, you can see there's nothing there. And the inlay on this is very small. You can't really see it. You got the Ruger symbol up here, and then the Ruger stamp below it. So we know from there we're going to grab our paint, put a few drops of paint thinner in it, get a little bit on the brush, I put too much on, and just apply it. Don't do a lot. The application here on this is not really any different. The only difference here is that the way we remove it this time, the way we remove the top layer. Okay, we've got a good layer. I want to smooth that out a little bit. Okay, so our paint's on, and our next step, as we saw before, is to dry it. This is going to be a little bit longer drying process than what you would have on a slide like that, on a pistol or any sort of smoother steel. This is going to take a little bit longer. Again, remember, keep your dryer high up from this at first, and then as it dries, we'll work it down. You don't want to throw the paint, you don't want to push the paint around. So I'll jump off screen, dry this. You're going to want to get it tacky, as we talked about before. Not all the way dry, but good and tacky. On this one, you'll want it a little bit more dry than what you would if you were doing it on a smooth steel. Okay, so I'm going to jump off, dry this, and we'll be right back to remove it. Alright, we're back, and we've got our paint to where it's tacky, not all the way dry. This took a little bit longer on this, and it will on this type of material there, this steel, where it's not flat, it's not smooth, it's a little anodized, it's got a little texture to it. It will take longer, and don't rush that drying process on the initial paint. That is important. to get that to the right consistency. So that is a little more detailed, and have to fine tune that more than we did in the last video on the slide. So then what we're going to do is, instead of going to a paper towel like we did last time, we're going to go straight to our cotton patches. And we might double them up here. Do our same thing though, and go to your paint thinner and just get it on the edge there. Oop, get a little bit more. Sorry about that, thought I had some in the syringe. Okay, so we've got our paint thinner on our towel. Get a good edge like that. And same thing, we're just going to wipe away from the serial number here. We don't want it in the serial number, at least I don't. So we're going to wipe very smooth and slowly away from that. And I'll probably still get a little bit in the serial number, and that's okay. You can see this is going to look really smeary. Well, it's going to, again, make you think that if you're doing this for the first time, maybe you ruin your gun. And like I've said before, don't worry about that. You haven't. So there's our main layer. Our main layer is gone. And we've got a lot of paint on there. We've got red on a contrasted black, and it makes it look like we certainly have not done something we should have done here. So I'm going to go back with a dry cloth right here and get a lot of that extra that's on there. Very lightly though. There was a little bit extra on this one. Okay, so I'll bring this up. Hopefully we can see it. You can see where we're at. We've got a good outline here. You know, like look on top, for instance, I've got paint on top of the rail. I've even got a little bit there on the safety release, or mag release, I'm sorry. But that's okay. So we've got our inlay, we've got it in our letters. So now at this point, this is a little different from last time. We would have gone to the cotton patch at this point. We're going to go to the t-shirt with our gun oil. So let's go to the t-shirt with our gun oil. I haven't even cut this one. I just left it full. But you know what, guys, before we do that, I almost skipped a step here, and that's my fault. I apologize. Let's go back to our dryer. And again, as I talked about last video, and I about did it now, but this is an important step between the thinner and the oil. Don't go straight to the oil from the thinner. Go back to drying this for 30 seconds or so. And again, what this does is it allows the gun oil to work better and not get down those grooves and pull it out of your inlay. That's not what we want. We want the gun oil to crisp everything up, not pull it out of the inlay. And this assists in that process. And that's it. 20-30 seconds of laying that on it, and we're good. Now we can go to our t-shirt. Take our t-shirt, gun oil. Okay, I just kind of got it pretty good and wet there. And then very softly and smooth, just rub up. We definitely don't want to get down in that inlay. We want to get rid of this remaining paint and sharpen this up. Okay, when you get enough on that one side, enough paint comes off, switch to a clean section and smoothly work it more. Lower receiver is always a little bit more difficult just because of the texture of the steel. You've got a little bit more here to work around. And I may go back and actually do that serial number or I may wait till this dries and pull what little bit I got in there out of that. And if I didn't state this clearly in the last video, if you've got paint in an inlay and you want to pull it out, you don't like it, or you got it in there by accident, take gun oil, put it on a paper towel, and just soak it good and rub it till it comes out. It'll come out maybe 30 seconds. If you have a couple little grooves or something that you can't quite get out with the paper towel, just use a brush. Don't use wire. Don't use wire. Just use a normal bristle brush on that. So here we are. Everything looks pretty good. We've still got some residue, but our lines are pretty sharp and our inlay looks good. Everything looks pretty solid in there. No areas that didn't get a good feel. Okay, so again, we're kind of down to our last step here. Now, what makes this again a little bit different, because back on the shield slide that we did, after we went to gun oil, we went straight to a dry patch and wiped it off and we were done. Well, that's a lot easier to do on that smooth steel because that paint doesn't really stick to it. And in this case, the paint kind of wants to grab onto this texture. So I'm going to go back to the oil one more time. And this could differ, guys. You know, that's what I need to do here. You may not need to go back. You may need to go back 2 or 3 times. Either way, it's all about how it works on your gun. But it's the same process either way. You're not changing what you're doing. You're just tailoring it to your specific process. I'm just rubbing that very lightly. I've got a little bit more coming off there. Okay. Now, at this point, it looks pretty good. I'm going to bring it back up one more time, see if you can tell any difference. The sheen that you see on there again is gun oil. Okay, that's not paint. There's a little bit left on there. But while the gun oil's still wet, before it gets all the way dry, guys, go back to your shirt and rub. You can try to get the majority of what's left on there by what little oil you had left on there. Don't rub too hard. You cannot. You can't really apply any sort of pressure on this textured portion of the lower. You just can't. Okay. Again, guys, don't forget, if you're a first timer, if you get paint on a spot you don't want it, just throw you some gun oil on a rag or the shirt and bring it right back off like it was never there. And I'm going to fine tune this a little bit more off camera, just because, you know, the paint, even though you can't even really see it, and I'll bring this back up for the last time here before we're done. But the paint, you know, there's a little bit of red shade between the logo and the lettering, just enough to where it needs to come off, and it's going to aggravate you. So I'll spend a little bit more time detailing this, but you can see how easy that was. I mean, even though the texture was a little bit different on the lower, it does, you know, make it a little bit more difficult. A little bit extra process. Just make sure you use the t-shirt or something cotton of the same type of material with no lint. You definitely don't want any lint. But make sure you do that. Stick to the steps. It's very simple. Don't rush your drying process, and don't forget to dry between thinner and oil when you're taking the paint off. But other than that, that's it. You can, you know, work it and trim it and be as fine-tuned and detailed as you'd like here. And so that's what I'm going to go ahead and do now. But if you guys enjoyed this video and this was also helpful, just hit the like button below. Thanks, guys.